Hello everyone, it's Professor Eno095 back with a Bruce deck profile. So like some people have actually tried to like beg me to make this because with the new PR. So ever since Saturday, since the new tournament PRs came out, I've gotten all of the copies already, and now I'm thinking now like this is list I've been cooking for 3 days straight, and I think this probably the best I can come up with so far. But of course, if this deck profile and this list doesn't really resonate with you, please don't hesitate to, or feel free to comment down in the comment section down below on what you can change or what you can play. But I believe this is the deck profile that we are. I'm satisfied with, right? So this is the deck profile we're going through. But before we jump straight into the deck profile, if you do like and enjoy the content I'm doing here in this channel, please don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more. But before that, a word from the sponsor. This video is sponsored by My Metal Cards at Etsy.com. So yes, this is a new upcoming shop which specializes in selling like a lot of metal cards, so hence the name. So it ranges and specializes in like a lot of games such as Cardfight Vanguard, MTG, and Warhammer. So in this case, if you see here for Vanguard, they have energy counters for every nation. There's also like treasure tokens for MTG. There's also like plenty other designs for Vanguard, such as like fated ones. There's also like nation ones, and also it comes with acrylic ones. It's more transparent acrylic ones, so that's pretty cool. If you want to get one of these, that's also nice. And also there's plenty of other designs which are not in this shop, but you can custom pre-order them. You can like order them customly, such as like my Chronojet black and white energy counter, which is like 0 to 10. There's also like black and white like nation cards such as like Brungate, which I have over here, and also like they have like IoT energy like energy markers, energy counters, which I have like all three, like bronze, silver, gold respectively. So that's about it. And also, if you go to this shop and have the code coupon code Enochsays, 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 you get $5 off for your first purchase of one of these metal cards as well. So 5 again, Enochsays, ENOCHSAYS, for $5 off for your first purchase. And do check them out. There's plenty of designs, and you can use them to spicify your decks, make it bling, make it fancy. Do keep in mind that since these are custom-made energy markers or whatsoever, counters or whatsoever, you cannot use them in like official Bushiroad tournaments. But you can use them as a form of like collection or whatsoever. And there you go. Just pick one of these up, and hopefully you'll like them. I like it personally, so do give them the support, and that's about it. I'll see you in the next video. Alright, so when talking about Viamance Bruce in general, right? Of course, I would have to say one thing. This deck is not meta defining. It's not even up in the meta list. At best, Diabolos can be like Bruce can be a tier B or tier C, right? So depending on how you build it, depending on how you see Bruce in general, it's a fun deck. It's not a very bad deck to play around with. But personally speaking, I kind of enjoyed Bruce right now. I kind of like it can win some games and sometimes it can lose. Just because generally speaking, I find like some of the issues I found in this deck so far being that like you do not have a lot of like draw engine. Then even if you draw a lot, like most of the time it's not gonna be a fake hand. Most of the time it's gonna be like 5Ks in your hand and whatnot. And also like if you do not draw into your persona, right, the numbers are fine, right? The numbers are actually okay, but if you don't draw into your persona, right, this is where things can get very wonky. Also, this is where like I feel like Bruce can be the fun aspect, is that you have like a little bit of a filter engine incorporated into it. You can swing for very big numbers in like very late game, so which is kind of good and which is kind of nice in general. So for me, I felt like this deck can be better, but we also have to wait until the card of the day, for the next cards, Diabolos. support coming in for the next DZ, BT07, which we're gonna get straight into that later, because this is also like something we can talk about. But of course, before we can just dive directly straight into the right line. Of course, the right line, self-explanatory. This is going to be the Diabolos right line, because you need to maximize as much as Diabolos cutting into your soul as much as possible. Being that like Viamance brews requirement for you to be in final rush and final burst is that your rear guard at the beginning of your battle phase, all of your rear guards needs, all of your units needs to have Diabolos, otherwise you cannot proc final rush and final burst, right? Technically speaking, if you go first, you are going to activate Final Rush, but if opponent is grade 3, it's going to be like a Final Burst, right? So just to clarify like what Final Burst and Final Rush is. Final Burst is just technically Final Rush, but you know, in like different grade and different setting, different circumstances, right? So if you have played any other cards such as like Julian or like what's the name of that card? The grade 2 that can call from the soul, Jamil. So Jamil is definitely like Jamil and Julian. These are the cards that can call something up from the soul, and if you have nothing else to call from the soul, this is the only like the backups that you can aim for, because these are Diabolos card names in general. So this is why it's very important. Starter wise, of course, if you went second draw one, the grade 1, which is Steve, which is when placed on Vanguard Circle, you can choose one card from your soul, call it to the center Vanguard Circle and soul charge 1. And of course, Richard here is that when placed on Vanguard Circle, you can choose one rear guard, move to your soul and draw one. So essentially, it helps you to fill your soul in, and also your draw engine, in order for you to like get maybe your key pieces in your soul, like Geno or something, and then for you to have the draw engine and whatnot. And that's the whole 0-1-2. But of course, the ace of the card is technically Diabolos, Viamance brews, which of course the first skill I already explained earlier. The second skill is that the one when this unit attack, if attacks a Vanguard, if I'm not, or like when this unit attacks, if you're in final burst, you choose one of your Diabolos columns, stand them, and those units plus 5k until the end of the turn, which is kind of nice, right? And of course, being the right line, we are done with the right line. We're gonna go to the grade 3s, which is the Persona Rights. 3 copies of Persona Rights, definitely you have to play 3, because if this deck doesn't have Persona Right, your numbers is going to be very wonky, and you want to pressure your opponent to like guard with magic numbers as much as possible. Otherwise, if you do not have Persona Rights, the numbers are gonna be like very guardable and very weird, right? So that's why you have to play 3. The next grade 3 card I'll be playing is Julian. 3 copies of Julian. Originally I was planning to play 4, but because it's a grade 3, and of course your defenses are not as high in this deck, technically speaking, I play like 3 is already enough. So that's like more 5k shoots slots for me. So Julian's skill is technically very simple. Is that rear guard once per turn when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you counterblast 1 for each card in your damage zone. This unit plus 2k, and if you have a bruised Vanguard, for every 2 cards in your damage zone, you get to soul charge 1 and choose any number of like the cards that you soul charge with this effect and from your soul and call it to empty rear guard circle. Technically speaking, what this means is that like what this means is that you can get to power up and get to soul and soul charge, and you get to call things out from your soul, and which means that it is technically you don't really have to commit much from your hand, which is nice. As long as Julian is on the board, you're pretty much set. And if you're going to have like 3 damage, for example, let's say I'm gonna use Steve as my booster, just to have a little bit of a demonstration. Let's say if you're in final burst and say that you have 3 damage and Bruce is your 13k booster, because he has a 5k when he's in final rush. And so if you boost with Steve, right, and you counter blast 1, and then you get to soul charge 1 because you have 2, not 4 damage. So if you have 2 damage, you get to soul charge 1. Essentially you get to soul charge 1, and then you get to call something. You call 1 from your soul, or you can call to 0 because it says up to. So it's not really mandatory to call anything, but preferably if you have something to call from the soul, just call it. And so if you have 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 6 plus 13 is 19, 19 plus 8 is 27, 27 plus 5 is 32. So if you have a good number here, you have a good column here, but of course yeah, it would be better if you can use, if you have 4 damage, that would be the most nicest thing ever, because it's gonna be like an extra 2k, which means that it's going to swing for 34. So you can have to reach those magic numbers as well with this one. And yeah, that's about what Julian can do. He's like fills your board and fills your soul for more potential, like cards like Geno. If Geno gets to be soul charged as well, it enables you to have like 5 attack, 6 attack, right? So something along those lines. So Julian is definitely a 3 off. The next grade 3 I'm playing is the Regalis piece called the Bracing Angel Ladder. Now, I think it is really self-explanatory as to why like I have to play this Regalis piece. Mainly because like your Vanguard column is usually not very big enough if you have like usually is around like 21k if I'm not without Persona. And if Persona is just a 31k, but this card can give your Vanguard plus 5k, which means like at one point in time your Vanguard can be either 26k or 36k, which is good. But the whole point of this Regalis piece is that you gain the effect that when you play this Regalis piece, this one order card, that until the end of your opponent's next turn, that your rearguards cannot be chosen by any card effects and cannot leave the rearguard circle. Mainly because I felt like Bruce, another problem with Bruce is that you have a lot of rearguards, but it's also prone to board wipe, prone to like field control and all that stuff. So you know, using this card on one turn to protect your rears, especially like cards like Orlando and like something like Eli or whatsoever, it's very important for you to like guard and like try to like protect your rearguards as much as possible, in order for you to like secure like combos for the next turn, right? So one Regalis piece, and this is the only one that you will be playing. I used to play Radiance Caliburn, but that whole thing changed when this new PR comes out, which I'm gonna dive straight into. But for now, I feel like the Bracing Angel Ladder is probably the best Regalis piece for this particular deck, mainly because you want to protect your rearguards from being nuked off the board, right? If technically speaking, if your boards are being field wiped, it's very hard for you to recover if you do not have the right necessary cards at the right time. So this is why I want to play like one of these, right? Alright, so now moving on to the grade 2, actually we'll be moving on to the 4 copies of Diabolos Playmaker, Eli. So Eli is very interesting because like his skill is that when this unit is placed on rearguard circle other than the battle phase, if you have a Diabolos Vanguard, you get to Energy Blast 3 and you look at the top 7 and find 2 normal unit Diabolos cards, one to soul, reveal them, and one to your soul and call it to, and one to call with the same grade or less than your Vanguard, and then you shuffle and then you shuffle your deck, right? So technically speaking, what Diabolos what Eli does is that technically speaking, he helps to fill your soul and also fill your board at the same time with the cost of Energy Blast 3, which is not too bad. And of course, you can filter out like whatever the key pieces that you need, like Hines, Orlando, Jamil, etc. All of these things. So it makes you easy. So it makes it easier for you not to commit so much from your hand. And it also like helps you like recover. Like let's say if some of your rearguards are being retired, you can use this skill to try to recover whatever rearguards that has been retired for the previous turn, and you know, to try to like come back in one way or another. But the best card about the second best thing about this card is that the second skill, where like if you're in it's a continuous effect where if you're in Final Rush, you get boost, and if you get Final Burst, it's going to be plus 5k. So essentially, it's going to be a 10k booster and also like a 15k booster if you are in Final Burst, which is nice because you can like have like a good amount of like pressure as well. So you can technically play like what you call the grade 2 grade 2 gaming, like rush gaming with boost. So of course, technically speaking, Eli is definitely a 4 off because you need to filter. I see people play 3, although to be fair, you can definitely go for that round. I personally want to play 4 because I want to maximize the filter as much as possible, and also who doesn't like a 50k 10k booster, right? So yeah, that's about it. I'll go through the combos later, don't worry. For the next grade 2, we have Jamil, Diabolos what's the Diabolos Knuckle, I think. Diabolos Knuckle Jamil, right? So we do not fret over the names for the time being. So the first skill is that on rearguard Guardian Circle, if you're in Final Burst, this unit plus 10k power and 5k shield. This is also active on your opponent's turn, so this is nice. So this is going to be a 20k permanently. if you're in final burst, and it's going to be like a 10k shield and 10k interceptor, which is kind of nice, right? So because it kind of like want to fix your defense and offense at the same time, so Jamil is the way to go. But also the best part about Jamil is that like when this unit is placed on regular circle, if your Vanguard is Viamance Bruce, you counter blast 1, you sword charge 1, you choose one card, Diabolos, break 3 or less normal unit from your soul and call it to empty regard circle, which is kind of nice, right? It does kind of same thing as Eli, only this time around it will cost you a CB1, but of course it also is not only this is a beat stick and a shield, shield value, it also allows you to call like extra cards in the soul. So let's say for example, if you use Eli to call Jamil, it's actually like you already have like three rear guards on the field instantly, just like that, right? With so it's a very good combo as well. So definitely a 4-off. That's kind of nice. For the next grade 2, we have Geno, actually, as a matter of fact. So Geno is I think it's a support from BT11 or BT12 actually, which is good because the skill is that on the front row rear guard circle, when this unit attack, if you're in final burst, you Soul Blast 2. When your Vanguard attacks, actually, front row rear guard circle, when your Vanguard attacks, if in final burst, you Soul Blast 2, and for every 2 cards in your damage zone, you got to choose one of your rear guards and stand them. If you stand 2, that unit and this unit plus this whole column is just gonna be stand plus 5k, right? So if you're going to have like, say, I'm gonna use Eli as an example because he is in a final burst, so he's a 15k booster, which is nice. This is going to be swinging essentially for 25k, and if your Vanguard attack and you use the skill to stand in 4 damage, you Soul Blast 2 and then you stand them, then these 2 units plus 5k, so essentially it's going to be like 35k, which is not a bad number in itself. So that's what Geno can do. It's actually well, the second skill is also very important, is that on the front row rear guard circle at the end of your turn, if you're in final burst, the cost is that you move himself into the soul and you choose one normal unit from your soul and add it to your hand, which is nice because it didn't specify whatever normal units. So if you soul charge into a PG, you can fetch back your PGs, right? So which is good. If you soul charge a Jamil, you can fetch it back to your hand. If you soul charge Trish or any other important key piece that you might need to set up for the next turn, Geno is your man. So I'll play 4 copies. But of course, I think that Geno is one of those few rare cards where you can actually play 3 copies. You can go by with playing 3 copies. Just because that you can always filter something into the, you can filter back into the soul with skill with the new grade 1 with the new promo, which of course we're gonna go straight into it later. But now moving on to the grade 1s, and now we're going to go for the grade 1s for 4 PGs. You might be wondering why I don't play Elementaria Sanctitude in this one, just because I felt like if you soul charge a Sanctitude, there's no way that Geno can help you fetch back. So my priority is that since this deck doesn't have really kind of like defense in one another, and if you do a lot of soul charging with Richard, Julian, etc., and Jamil, you will tend to see that you either soul charge triggers and the worst case scenario, or you can technically, if you soul charge a PG, it's also good if Geno is on the board, because if end of battle, where if in the final burst that he can move himself, then you can fetch back your PG. So this is why I felt like playing like 4 of these normal PGs is actually good enough. I do not want to play 1 Sanctitude, but if you do want to play Sanctitude, feel free to go ahead. And of course, we'll go straight into the new PR, which is Diabolos. What's the I don't remember what is it, but like I remember his name is Hines, so Hines Beans, which is the running joke in the community right now. So this card is pretty awesome and pretty cool. Being that like this skill is that when this unit is placed on rear guard circle, if you have a Diabolos Vanguard, so it doesn't need to have a grade 3 restriction, you can choose one Diabolos card from your drop zone and move it into your soul, and if you do during this turn this unit plus 5k, at the end of the turn you have to retire this card. But if your opponent is grade 3, then it gets 10k, so yes, so it's an 18k if you went second, right? Or provided if your opponent is already like grade 3. So, and also even then it's going to be a 13k attacker booster, so which means that you can technically rush early with this particular deck as well. So this is what I mean by the early rush gaming with Jamil and Hines. But the best part is that The second skill is that when this card is being retired from your rearguard circle, if you're in final burst, or no, if you're in final rush, and if you did not counter charge during this turn, you get to Soul Blast 1 and you get to counter charge 1, right? So this kind of like fixes a lot of like issues with like some of the counter blast issues with Jamil and also like Bruce and Julian. Mainly because like you do kind of like in one turn you might need to waste like 3 counter blasts or like 2 counter blasts. With Julian and whatnot, and with Viamance Bruce, so this kind of helps to at least replenish and recover some of the your counter charge engine. So kind of nice. This is going to be like way better, miles better than whatever Greg is, where like if you recall, there's this one Greg 3 where if you Soul Blast 2, if you're in final burst, then you Soul Blast 2 and then you can counter charge 1, but that was a great 3, and I felt like that card on hindsight is absolute trash. Play Hines instead, right? And the best part about this card is that you can actually combo with the next card going through is Orlindo, I would say. I pronounce this Orlando, but in official name is definitely Orlando. Now, Orlando's skill is very interesting, right? So when this card is discarded from your hand, during this turn, I'll move into your soul. If you have a Diabolos Vanguard, you get to Energy Blast 3 and call it to an empty back row rearguard circle, right? That which is good because it's definitely a free call for you in a sense. The second skill is that the auto skill is the back row center rearguard circle once per turn. At the end of the battle that this unit attacks, at the end of the battle that your rearguards attack. If you're in final rush, you retire 2 of your front row Diabolos, you draw 1, you choose one of your back row rearguard and move it to that empty rearguard circle, right? So which is nice because you can, this is why this card is absolutely very important, because it enables you to have like your 4th attacker onwards, right? So this is where Orlando comes in, and with these 2 new promos, well, technically Orlando is not new, but you know, he's been around for quite some time. If you have, by any sheer chance possible that you have, let's say I'm gonna use like 2 of these Hines there, and then you can just swing, and then you swing, and then you use Orlando's skill to proc this, and then you just retire 2, and you get to draw 1, and yeah, and then you choose something from the back row, maybe a Geno, and move it to the front row rearguard circle, and this way the time that you can use Hines skill to either Soul Blast 1 and try to counter charge 1 if you don't have anything. But yeah, that's about it. That's kind of nice. And also just to a little bit of what you say, like addition to this is that remark is that you can choose a Diabolos from your drop zone and move it into your soul, which means that you can literally discard anything. You can even discard your Genos, your Julians, your Elis, or whatsoever, and you can even discard this. And those cards, at one point in time, that like, you can always shove those cards in the drop zone back into your soul, so you don't have to really worry about cards that, you know, if your rearguards are gone, then it's okay, because this is where Julian and Jamil comes in, and Eli comes in because it helps you to like call back the cards that you have discarded. And call back the cards that like maybe got retired at the whatever turn, at whatever previous turn in general, right? So these 2 cards are definitely the GOATs, the most like the MVPs that makes the deck boost, right? So that's about it. For the great ones, not really actually. There's one more great one that I'll play, is actually Trish. So Trish is fairly simple. Continuous on rearguard guardian circle. If you're in final rush, it gets a 5k power and 5k shield. Essentially, she's a 13k booster attacker and also a 10k shield, so which is nice. I'll play 3. I will play 4, but I think like 3 is definitely enough. Just because like you know, you have to fix and adjust the ratios. Moving on to the triggers, we have like, of course, for heals, Diabolos. I just want to like maximize like the Diabolos, because like sometimes Diabolos is kind of, the name Diabolos kind of matters a lot. I played 8 crits, 4 Diabolos go my mind, I think. And then you have 4 of these dragon, lively breath, and also 3 draws, effect draws, and 1 red OT. Like I said earlier in this video, hand size is an issue, so this is why I play draws. Even then, there is still not much draw engines for you to like kind of like have this a good amount of shield value in your hand. So of course you can always go optionally for, like, say, play 5 fronts, no, not 5 fronts, 6 crits and 5 draws, or something along those lines, or like 6 crits, 5 draws, or like say 4 draws and 7 crits, however you feel like it. But I felt like 15k shield is way more important than like 10k shields. Mind you, this is a 10k shield. I feel like this is kind of okay, because like even though like Diabolos have like very good numbers, if you do not have the crit pressure, this is where like the whole thing can tumble down, in my personal opinion, because without the crit and the big numbers, it just doesn't really feel right. So I just need to put in a little bit of like a pressure if I have to play with the crits, in generally speaking, right? And talking about pressure, red OT is probably like the reason why I want to play this OT in the deck, because it can enable you to have like your 7th 8 attack or something along those lines, right? Extra attack is definitely welcome, but of course, if you do not want to play red OT, I think blue OT is definitely okay also. Just because like the 100 million double crit and fetch something back from the drop back to your hand, especially when it's a PG, is definitely very helpful and reliable in those kind of circumstances where you felt like your defenses are low. So this is this red OT is definitely very suitable for, in this particular deck, mainly because you want to rush and you want to like do as much attacks as possible, just to run their defenses down and try to rush them, right? And so that's for the deck profile. I'm gonna go straight into the combo so you can see what's going on, and understand my reasonings behind this deck and how this deck operates. So maybe we can just adjust for a little bit things over here. Alright, now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna have to go a little bit of a demonstration, some sort of ish. So now let's assume that we are going second, because you want to prioritize final burst, right? So you get to draw 5, and then let's go for the mulligan. Now mulligan, preferably you wanted to keep this in hand. This is very important because from turn 2 onwards, you can just have to discard this, and then if you have you have to energy blast 3 to call this the back row as early as possible. Otherwise, you can just do this on your when you're riding to grade 3. I think that is fine. Trigger and it's not that bad. I think this is a very nice hand, but if you want to go like make Julian go back, I think it's okay. Other than that, I felt like, yeah, sure, that's about it. I think we can just shuffle and just draw 1. And the best part about like Bruce so far is that this deck doesn't, if you notice that this deck doesn't really run a lot of like cyclers, mainly because it's just not because of the name restriction, but there's a lot of like things that can already filter, not technically filter. You can just put things back to the drop zone from put into the soul from the drop zone, mainly because of Hines. So that's the reason why you don't have to worry about what card you have to discard. So that's why you can simply just throw anything at this point. So you can just cut the deck, and you can just discard like whatever Diabolos is in your hand for the time being, provided if like I just have to like draw 1. Oh yeah, and then I shuffled, so I didn't want. Okay, yeah. Anyways, just assume that I did draw into 1, then I stand up the Vanguard, and assuming if I went second and I now stand and draw. So far so good. So for this time round, maybe I can just discard Geno and just right into Steve. So Steve, now you can hear at this point, you want to choose to either draw 1 or you want to soul charge. For me personally, I rather want to draw first, so I draw into Hines, which is good, and soul charge into something. And if you soul charge into PG, I think that is fine also, because you can maybe call out Geno. You can use Geno to put that PG back into your hand if you're in final burst. Well, yeah, technically in final rush, but yeah, technically in final rush. So there we go. And of course, yep, that's about it. I think you can just swing the Vanguard for 14k. And the best part about being like going second, swinging with 14k is that if your opponent is 8k or 15k isn't really sufficient. So that's really a good magic number. So you have to force your opponent to no guard, or which of course if you drive check, you get you drive check into a draw. I draw it to Eli, which is nice. Now assuming it's my energy right now is actually 3, and I haven't do anything with it for the time being. And if I damage check, there's a crit there. The power of the Vanguard, and then my turn, stand and draw. I drew into Hines, so that's nice. I energy charge 3, and then I get to discard the Orlindo, and now I write into Richard. So Richard still, I can choose one card, one of my red cards, put to soul, I get to draw 1. I draw into Bracing Angel Ladder, which is kind of nice. So you get to Energy Blast 3, you can just Superior Call Orlindo, and one more time you can you can technically swing from here on out, but if you really want to do the fast gaming filtering fast, this is where you can start calling for Eli, and then you Energy Blast 3, and then you look at the top 7 cards in your hand, 4, 5 of your deck, sorry, not from the hand. You can choose one to go to the soul and call, and one to call. And this is where like Geno is very important to be in the soul, because you can call it out with Julian later, or you can call it out with Jamil, and then the other one you can just call it out. For this time round, I'm just gonna call out with Hines. Okay, I'm just gonna call Hines, and then I'm just gonna shuffle the deck, right? Granted, I can't countercharge because I'm not in final rush yet, but assuming if that was the case, then everything is going pretty smooth at this time. I think this is kind of nice. So what I can do is that's about it for the time being. You can swing with a 10, you can swing with a 13 because he is called during his turn. So now an opponent is not grade 3 yet, so this is going to be a 13k. So we are swing, it's a plus 5k, so it's a 13k, and then you swing with an 18k, and then you get draft check. Nothing in mind. Again, end of turn, this one retires, and that's about it. And then maybe you can just like take and like heal, and then okay, so I will let the damage here like do the case. So damage check this one. Maybe you want to like guard a little bit with a 15k, and maybe say that you take another 2 more additional damage, which I get into draw trigger, and maybe just 1 more, and that's fine. And now stand and draw, and I drew to my OT, which is sad, but that's okay. And I can technically at this point, what you can technically discard is that I think you can actually discard Trish. Trish is fine, I guess. And then you write into Viamance Bruce. Then, of course, since you have the Energy Blast to spare, this is a time where you have to call Eli, and then with Eli's skill, you have to Energy Blast 3. You look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and this is where we see Julian in action. 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then you can just shove in a Geno, and then you can call in a Julian, then you can just have to swap place with this, and then you have to shuffle your deck, right? So I'm just gonna move it out so that you can see properly on what I'm actually doing with this, where I'm going, just to get you a little bit of a clearer picture on how do you pilot this deck in general. So this is why like Eli is actually kind of good both early game and late game, because it helps you to call out like at least 2 normal units gone. So technically speaking, you're filtering your deck. So the more Eli's that you can dish out for for calling and whatnot, you can technically speaking filter your deck as well very fast. And also you don't really have to commit much on from your hand, so which is cool. So this time around I'm gonna call Hines, and with Hines skill I choose 1 card from my drop zone, which in this case I'm gonna call Geno, moved in the soul. Well, technically speaking, you don't need to shove a Geno since I already have 2 Genos in the soul, but if you're so inclined, maybe you can shove back another Hines, or maybe you can shove another Trish. So in this case, maybe at this point I can shove another, I can shove a Hines in the soul just because I can. And then you switch place with this one, and this is where you go for the final burst, and assuming if your opponent is already a grade 3, since you already went second. So this one is going to be 10k, this is going to be like 18k, the smaller number first, I would say this is going to be like 15k, this is going to be like 18k, and Orlindo skill proc, so which means that you can get to kill, and then you get to draw 1, and then you choose 1 Julian and move it to the front row. Since you didn't use any CP this turn, you don't really use a lot of counter blast, so you just let it be. But if you have a counter blast, then that's about it. And then you try to swing with Julian. Now Julian is now swinging for 13 plus 15, 28, 28, counter blast 1, and then I soul charge 2, 1, and 2. That is actually great. Maybe at this point now you can call Geno, and then you get to call Hines, right? So you can do it 1 more time. You can use Hines skill to proc. Maybe I would call, maybe I can just shove in Julian, I think that's fine. So that's about it. So now we are looking at 23, 30, we are looking at counter plus 1, 4 times 2 is 8, 21, 21, 31, 36. So you're swinging for 36, but of course if you have 5 damage, it's going to be at 38. In a personal turn, it's going to be at 48, so you can see the numbers are pretty huge. Assuming, so you're going to swing for 36, and then you're going to swing for about like 28, and then you're gonna swing with Bruce, which means that you can counter blast 1, and then you can stand Julian and Eli, and then with Geno skill you are in Final Burst, so you can just Soul Blast a trigger, and Soul Blast may be a grade 0 for this cost. And then after that you stand, then since you stand 2 for every 2, stand 1 Ray Guard, and if you stand 2, +5/+5 for every 2 damage in a damage zone, so +5/+5, you drive, first check, critical trigger, second check, and then Diabolos. So you can critical trigger maybe to a smaller number like Geno, because this is already swinging for 46, so it's a pretty big number, which means that here Geno is swinging for you for 28, and then you stand for 38, and probably you get a crit here, and a trigger here is going to be like 48 up crit, or like say if your opponent is already a PG, this is going to be like 40k, but if they PG you do that, this is going to be like 48k, so which is kind of nice. Then you swing with 46, then you swing with 48, then the skill end of turn you move Geno into the slow, you bounce back the PG because it says a normal unit into your hand, and then with Hines skill you retire itself, and since you did not counter charge during this turn and I did not even prop anything this turn, maybe you can just Soul Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1 retreat, and you can get to counter charge 1. So this is how the flow goes, right? And maybe like maybe the next turn like you should just PG another one. Maybe I have to discard a Jamil or something like that, and then just take 1 damage here with crit power, and then just guard, and maybe just guard with OT, I don't know. And then your turn is stand and draw. And if I get a persona right, which I didn't, but that's okay. See, this is the problem. I usually don't draw into my persona rights, right? But anyways, if I have a Bracing Angel Ladder, I can just move in the soul. I get to draw 1, now 5k, and then until the end of my my opponent's next turn, all of my real cards can't be touched, right? So you can see where this is going. So at this point, I can just call another Eli, and then just got an Energy Blast again. I just look at the top 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 Diabolos name. Maybe I can just put Trish in the soul and maybe another Eli if I have to. Yeah, so that's about it. But if you have another like extra energy to blast with Eli, I think you can do it one more time, but because my board is pretty much full, so that's about it. You can switch places with him, with Eli for the time being, and you know, yeah, just gotta swing for 15, retire 2, draw 1, and then just call Julian, and then you counter blast 1. This is going to be like a 23, then soul charge 2, and then you choose 2, and then you spirit call this one, and spirit call Trish. If you can't call Trish, I mean like if you can call Steve, I think it will be fine as well. You gotta swing for like 23, I think, yeah, 23, and you swing, counter blast 1, you stand, and then Geno soul blast 2. This you got the soul blast, the angel ladder, and the trigger, and then you stand +5/+5 to drive first check, second check, right? So that's my persona. But yes, that's how generally the flow goes. If you can get all your key pieces on time and hoping that you don't break, because the first things first that you need to be in your hand is either like Geno and Orlind is probably like the first 2 cards I would try to look for. But anything else, I felt like you can just discard anything. Like I said, because thanks to Hines, you can just thanks to Hines. No, that's not Hines. Thanks to Hines, you can just basically just shove back whatever things that you've discarded from your drop into your soul, which is the best part of it. What else I would do? I would say like yeah, I think like defenses so far is not that bad. It's just that if you're fighting against rush decks, then you might have a problem. If you fight decks that have a very huge high power ceiling, then yeah, Bruce can't technically guard all of them. Yeah, yes, that's about it. Let's go for the alternatives part, and then I'll get you back on like what's the alternative cards that you can play. Alright, so talking about alternatives wise, there's a few, probably some cards that you can consider playing. First things is Mabel. Mabel's skill is that when this unit boosts Vanguard, if you're in Final Rush, you can do counter blast 1 and choose one of your Vanguards, it gets triple drive, so which is nice. So Mabel is kind of nice for your early game triple drive, and also kind of like want to increase the pressure for you to like force your opponent to either 2 to pass or 3 to pass even. But of course, being that like you have a lot of space, your space is kind of like pretty tight in Bruce. So maybe if you really want to force your opponent to like guard a lot, or like force the PGs for like that triple drive extra pressure with the triggers, with like forcing out your triggers as fast as possible, I think Mabel is definitely fine. But of course, for me personally, I really can't find another space for me to fit one Mabel, and even then, the only place where Mabel actually makes sense is in the back row rearguard circle. However, that spot has been taken by Orlindo, so you have to decide whether or not like you want to go for the multi-attack or do you want to go for the multi-pressure. But even with without Orlindo with the 6 to 7 attacks, with a 5 attack boost, I think this is sufficient enough. So this is going to be like the only unit where like you use it for just for the sake of like triple driving and getting extra triggers and whatnot. So I think that's okay if you want to go for it. The second card I'll be like looking at is technically Stephanie. So Stephanie is a skill is that like a continuous rearguard circle. If you're in final rush or the units that is the same, your other units in the same column on this unit plus 5k. So essentially just making the units in front of you plus another 5. But for me at this point, like Stephanie, for me after like play testing a while, I think she's kind of a little bit of obsolete, mainly because like how this deck is designed to do a little bit of like multi attacks and whatnot. So it will be very awkward for Stephanie to be in the back row and then like try to move it in the front row, and in a non-persona turn it's going to be swinging for a very awkward 8k. But in that excuse me, in that particular regard, any units that Diabolos unit in front of us, just in final rush is gonna get an extra 5k. So maybe Eli is just gonna swing for 20k, or Geno can be swing for 15k or something along those ranks, or it can be a 23k booster at the end of the day. So which is good, which is not bad, and kind of reaches magic numbers in in some certain situations. But for me, Stephanie is not really I would say like not really feasible at this point. But then again, if you're low on budget, and the PR can kind of get a little bit pricey depending on how and where you get them, Stephanie can be a good option because it can swing for like good numbers as well. And also like speaking about like next set in general, usually I will have to talk about this thing. This is the thing I want to talk about, which is Grady. So this is not a card that has been released yet, but you can consider maybe playing at least like 2 to 3 copies of this guy, because the skill is that auto rearguard once per turn. If you have a Diabolos Fang, when this unit is stand by the Diabolos Vanguard by the effect, you choose one of your Vanguards plus 5k, and then the second skill is that continuous rearguard guardian circle. If you're in final rush, he gets intercept and can intercept from the back row, and if you're in final burst, this unit gets shield plus 5k, which is good because it fixes a lot of issues what Bruce originally had with the very weak middle column. Usually it would be like what I mentioned earlier, you can either go for like a 21, 26, 31, 36, depending if you persona right, or depending if you have, if you play Bracing Angel Ladder. But now with this time, every time when this, as long as you can get to stand this unit, then you get to give one of your Vanguards plus 5k, which means that it can potentially reach some magic numbers, which is kind of good, and also gives you some sort of a shield value and intercept from the back row, which also if you're in final burst plus a 10k, right? So kind of nice. Which is kind of nice as well. So yes, that's usually what I would recommend playing, and like what other form of alternatives as well. But this card is not out yet. It's gonna be in PT07, so maybe you can take this deck and probably tweak a little bit and maybe just add in wherever you have space to. Personally, if you ask me what if I were to play this card, the first thing on my kick out is actually Trish, because Trish is still a 13k booster and still like a 10k shield, but at the end of the day I felt like this 10k shield is more or less the same thing, because what I prioritize more is actually like defense and not that like offense, because offense I felt like Bruce has already done sufficient in terms of offense and whatnot. If you see how my demonstration goes, it's just that like Trish needs to be there because of the 5k intercept, 10k intercept, and also the giving the Vanguard plus 5k value, which is kind of good as well. So I think that's about it. I will conclude my deck profile over here. And so like I said at the beginning of this video, if you do have anything, any recommendations, like or some sort of like any ideas on how would your list be different than me, put it down in the comment section down below. How do you feel about this deck? Well, technically speaking, I really do enjoy this deck. I've been cooking this for about like 3 days, so so far so good. I think this is the list I'll settle down for the time being. But any other changes, probably you see me in the 60-second card segment, which also is a new thing that I'm trying to test. So if you're figuring out what Darkseid deck needs a little bit of like how do I build my Darkseid deck, this will be a very good insight. So please check that out. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content in the near future. This has been Professor Enoch 095 signing out. Whee!